Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in today's third video, doing GavsWeatherVids Sunday Round-Up for today's third video. So, as well as on Sunday, you've got your eclectic mix of this and that, going to be looking at things like solar activity, sea surface temperature anomalies, Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation, and weather next 10 to 14 days as well. I shall get on that for you very shortly. Just say about the first video release today was our nice little 7 AM upload, and we also release a summer update as well. Check out those two if you have not yet done so. It's going to be live streaming from 6 o'clock this evening. Have our Sunday live stream. Going to be focusing on the long range as it is a Sunday live stream. So we'll be live streaming the Beijing Climate Centre with this one, and we'll be looking at some long range data from Beijing Climate Centre from 6 o'clock. I shall see you then. Please like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Thanks so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, let's start off with solar activity. So this is how the solar disk is looking on our side of the disk today from SOI&ENSO. Got two sunspot regions, one just here and one just here. Despite that, solar activity is at very low levels and is expected to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days. This is how the GavsWeatherVids solar activity tracker is looking, updated by our good friend James Ackrill. Keep up solar tracker up to the 18th of April today. So it's James for updating this. So the orange line depicting each GWV's worth of sunspot activity. So you can see we had a little tick up in activity actually over the past week. So a couple of days ago it went up to there, which is higher than we've been since back in November. Had this spike just here back in November, of course, then a general drop in activity. So past few days have been a little bit more active. That's falling back a little bit now. You can see that from the orange line just there. But, yeah, we've gone for a slightly more active period. It has been enough to just start lifting up the trend lines, which are the thick green and thick trend lines. They've just started ticking up ever so slightly. But still at a low level of activity overall. We are into second year of solar cycle, number 25, of course. You'd expect solar activity to start picking up now. And it is a pretty slow start, actually, to this solar cycle. We are having quite a slowish, sort of sluggish start to the solar cycle, as we did with solar cycle 24. But yeah, we have had a little bit more activity over the past week. Thank you, James, for updating that. Now, who am I today? Oh, look, it's Doc Gav. Wow, from Back to the Future. There he is. Oh, thank you so much, Rich. This is from Rich, of course. This is showing spotless days and the current spotless stretch. So, for the current spotless stretch, it's 0 because we had sunspots yesterday, of course. For 2021, so far, we have had 41 days without sunspots, which I think is 38% of the year. Comparable to 2020, which had 208 days without sunspots, that's 57% of the year. And of course, our solar minimum year was in 2019, which had 281 days without sunspots. That was 77% of the year. So that percentage is slowly coming down now. But yeah, it's still quite a highish percentage, really, given that we are well into the second year of solar cycle number 25. Thank you so much to Rich for the gift and for turning me into Doc Gav. I always look forward to see who I'm going to be every week. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Rich, for that. And thanks, James, as well, for the solar tracker, of course. Right, it's how the oceans were looking what we did last week's Sunday Round-Up. So this is from the 9th of April. We've got our 3 areas of interest. We've got the ENSO region just here, of course. We've got the Northern Pacific over there. And we've got the North Atlantic over here. That's how the oceans, therefore, were looking when we did last week's GavsWeatherVids Sunday Round-Up. Let's have a look at the very latest, see what they're doing. So let's deal with the ENSO region first of all. So go back to last week. Again, this is the area that we're looking at between Peru and Indonesia, the ENSO region just there. That's how it looked last week. This is how it looks this week. Very little change, actually. Probably a slight weakening again of the landing. You see, of course, we have had a weak to borderline moderate landing through the winter of 2020-2021. It's unravelled, of course, as we've gone into the spring. You expect the landing has backed off and has gone back to ENSO neutral. And we see this by the blue colours, which are cold now. The sea surface temperature is gradually weakening. I think there's been a further weakening, actually, over the past week. So very little change possibly a slight weakening. It's starting to turn colder again, though, just off the coast of Peru. But those are shallow waters, so I'm not sure that's particularly impactful. Going northwards into the northern Pacific, again, that's how the North Pacific looked last week, this is how it looks this week. So off the coast of Canada and America, actually quite cold through there. So it remains pretty cold, actually, in the northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean. That's probably in response to the La Nina, I would have thought. And then in the Atlantic, this is how the Atlantic was looking last week. This is how it looks this week. So we are seeing quite a significant warming of the tropical and subtropical Atlantic Ocean around here, significantly warmer than average from the Azores to the Canary Islands, and also warming up through the tropical Atlantic down here as well. So a definite warming has taken place, and in fact we almost now have like a horseshoe shape of warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies from like southern Greenland down to the tropical Atlantic. That's quite interesting, and would be particularly so if this area started to get colder. There's not much sign of that at the moment, but if it did start to turn colder off the eastern seaboard of the United States up to Newfoundland, that would be quite interesting area to go colder than average. I'll say no more than that. But yeah, quite warm in the Atlantic, particularly here around the Canary Islands to the Azores. And then again around here, in the tropical Atlantic. Also looks very warm in the Gulf of Mexico now. So we're going in towards the summer. It looks like the Atlantic is beginning to prime itself again for another pretty big tropical storm / hurricane season, doesn't it, with the sea surface temperature anomalies. It's early days, they might start cooling down before we get into the summer, but it's going to be interesting to see. Certainly if we keep these warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies around this area, and also in the Gulf of Mexico, it'll be a case of watch out when we get into the season. Southern Oscillation Index next. So it's just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, not driving anything. So in terms, just tells what the atmosphere is doing, measuring air pressures between Darwin and Tahiti in the southern Pacific Ocean. When the SOI is in its negative phase, the atmospheric setup will be reflective of El Nino. When the SOI is in its positive phase, atmospheric setup will be reflective of La Nina. Let's scroll down, have a look at the daily returns. So here they are. We have had some negativity of the SOI over the past week, which probably is why we've seen a further weakening of the La Nina signal. So 12th of April came out at minus 9.23, 13th of April came out minus 25.60, 14th of April came out minus 19.69. Very negative numbers, very much an atmospheric state that's reflective of El Nino. We went positive with the SOI on the 16th of April to plus 4.11, and then the 17th and 18th of April a little bit negative again. Before that we was positive, 11th of April at plus 9, 10th of April at plus 9, and 9th of April at plus 9 too. So we're trading negativity and positivity of the SOI, which is exactly what you expect, given that we are into an ENSO neutral phase at the moment. You would expect neither El Nino or La Nina type state to be able to get an ascendancy when you are at ENSO neutral. So that pretty much confirms what we've already said, but we are back to ENSO neutral now. It's how the QBO is looking, quasi-biennial oscillation from NASA, so I'll have a quick look at that. So QBO, of course, again, it's an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. This time it's measuring the strength of the zone of westerlies. When you're in a westerly QBO, the zone of westerlies will tend to be strengthened. When you're in an easterly QBO, the zone of westerlies will tend to be weakened. This is something that's more impactful in the winter rather than the summer, but we do keep an eye on it all the way through the year, of course. So our last easterly phase of the quasi-biennial oscillation was just here, almost disappearing off the map now, off the chart, back in 2017-2018. Our last westerly phase of the QBO was just there from 2018 to 2019. And now, of course, we're still in a westerly QBO. We should have had an easterly QBO descend through 2020, but it failed. Westerly QBO hung on just in the troposphere and then came back through the second half of 2020, and we still have that westerly QBO now in the troposphere. By the way, this is like the top of the atmosphere up here. This is the stratosphere at 10 HPA, and 30 to 50 HPA, this period just here, or this area just here, is what we call the troposphere. That's the boundary level of the atmosphere where weather is taking place. QBO phases start in the stratosphere up here, and then sort of descend down from the stratosphere into the troposphere. So, yeah, we're in the westerly QBO phase now. Westerly QBO hung on, of course, through 2020. Let's zoom in, and we can see that the easterly QBO phase is in the stratosphere and looks like it's trying to descend, doesn't it? So, I did a video a couple of days ago when we went over this. You can see how the colours are getting more intense up here. These blue-green colours are sort of getting more intense in the stratosphere. That tells us that the eastern QBO is strengthening within the stratosphere, and looks like it's trying to push down, I think, doesn't it? Looks like it's trying to push down into the troposphere. Has not yet got into the troposphere, but it looks like it's trying to get in that direction. So we shall see where that's going to go. But I think we're probably going to the easterly QBO in the summer, most likely. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. We may get another failure like we did last year, and the westerly QBO just carries on in the troposphere. But to me, that looks like the easterly QBO is strengthening and descending. So all eyes on the QBO over the next 2 or 3 months, I think. Right, Arctic Oscillation next. So this is how the AO observed and forecast chart is looking. Black line shows where I've been with the Arctic Oscillation. Red lines at the end where the Arctic Oscillation is forecast to go. Remember, this is just an index that's reflecting atmospheric state in the Arctic this time, not driving anything in its own terms. When the AO is negative, we've got high pressure blocking in the Arctic, and when the AO is positive, we've got low pressure in the Arctic. You can see that at the moment, the Arctic Oscillation is neutral to weakly positive. The GFS ensembles are forecasting that the Arctic Oscillation will stay around neutral and then probably go more negative as we run up to the end of April and possibly into the start of May. We may be seeing signs of a blocking signal beginning to re-emerge perhaps by the end of April and into the beginning of May. It's a long way off, but it's a possibility. NAO is the same idea, so this time just measuring atmospheric state in the North Atlantic between Iceland and the Azores. When the NAO is positive, then we've got low pressure on Iceland, high pressure through the Azores, and we will strengthen the westerly flow. When the NAO is negative, we'll have low pressure or lower pressure around the Azores and higher pressure around Iceland. Have actually been in a negative phase of the NAO over the past week or two since early April. We're currently still weakly negative with the NAO, and the GFS ensembles are forecasting that the NAO is likely to stay neutral to weakly negative as we go into the end of April and the beginning of May. So both of our indexes are moving towards a more negative phase, possibly by the beginning of May. It could be a sign of more unsettled weather, and it might be a sign of northern blocking re-emerging. We'll have to see about that. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. So the next couple of weeks, we're looking at Cardiff today. Red line is 30-year upper air temperature average for Cardiff. We're starting off a little bit lower than average, a little bit cooler than average with the upper air temperatures at the moment. They're going to lift up though over the next few days, actually by next weekend and into the beginning of the following week. So going into last week of April, we are turning the upper air temperatures, we are getting the upper air temperatures a little bit warmer then. Going a little bit above average for the first time in quite a while. Get to the end of April into the beginning of May, there's a definite drop in the upper air temperatures being signalled. Then this is around when the AO and NAO might be moving into negative phases. Of course, that might start to pull cooler air back in from the north. Precipitation-wise, going to be a lot of dry weather over the next few days, but as we run on into the last week of April and then through to the beginning of May, it looks like things are going to turn more unsettled. There's more precipitation spikes, so by the end of April we might be in a wetter phase of weather, and after turning warmer for a few days, it might start to turn cool again as we get towards month's end and into the beginning of May. Temperature anomalies from the 18th to 26th of April going to be slightly below average, especially so for England and Wales. Precipitation anomalies from the 18th to 26th of April going to be drier than average, so still rather cool, still very dry in the week ahead. Latest wind flow map from earthnullschool.net shows that we are still under a ridge of high pressure, but westerlies are getting ever closer to us and are trying to displace that area of high pressure. But the high's got a little way to go yet, I think. It's not done with us yet. So the UK Met is looking for Wednesday. High pressure will be just to our west and northwest on Wednesday, begin to pull cooler air back in from the north, but then the high pressure will slip into the country through Thursday and Friday, bringing lots of dry weather. And as that high pressure begins to move towards our east, we'll start to bring up warmer air from the south, and so that's where the rise in the upper air temperatures is coming from. By next weekend, we'll start to bring some warmer air up from the south with that ridge of high pressure centering over and to the east of the country. So temperatures definitely look like they're lifting up there into the second half week. And next weekend could turn rather warm, perhaps. This is how the GFS midnight run is looking. Again, high pressure centered over the country on Wednesday. Will be rather cool on Wednesday, but through Thursday, Friday into next weekend, the high pressure drifts to our east and we begin to pull up the air from the south, so that will lift the temperature. We have got low pressure out to our west, though, threatening some showers perhaps into the west and the southwest by next weekend. But I think this high pressure is going to bring a lot of dry weather through the end of the week and into next weekend. Now into the following week, this is Monday 26th of April. By then, high pressure going back northwards again. This is how the AO and the NEO started to trend more negative, probably. High pressure begins to go northwards, starting to set up, blocking towards Greenland and Iceland again. Low pressure begins to move in underneath it. That's turning unsettled as we're heading up towards day 10. And so we get to day 10, which is Wednesday 26th of April. We've got high pressure in the Norwegian Sea from Greenland, Scandinavia. Low pressure across France, Bay of Biscay, moving northwards into UK. That looks like it's turning much more unsettled, particularly so for England and Wales, with spells of rain, and probably quite cool as well. Beyond that, looks much more unsettled as we come towards the end of April. So this is Friday 30th. Low pressure again, focused on England and Wales. Could give quite a soaking, quite a strong easty wind. Will make it feel pretty cool as well. And then we keep that low pressure meandering around as we come to the end of the GFS midnight run, which is going to get us to Tuesday the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you. Low pressure will bring showers, if not longer spells of rain. So definitely much more unsettled as we go into the last days of April and the beginning of May. GM looks like that again, bringing in quite a cold northerly wind on Wednesday. Then the high pressure is slipping into the country through Thursday and Friday, but it is quite cold under that ridge with the GM, so more night frost could be expected there. GM keeps high pressure away to our northwest into next weekend. Very different to what the GFS was showing. No southerly. Actually, GM is bringing us northerlies into next weekend. So stays cold with the GM through next weekend and keeps it cold actually all the way up to day 10, to be honest. With high pressure away to our north-northwest, winds continue to be in from a northeasterly direction. And this low pressure over France and Biscay would be threatening rain to the south probably by day 10 as well. The other models do get to that, but they bring us a brief sort of 2 or 3 day period of warmer southerly southeasterlies before they arrive at that sort of blocked and more unsettled solution. So it'd be interesting to see whether we do pull up those southerly winds this time next week, won't it? ECM also looks like this. So again, high pressure way to our northwest, bringing in the wind from a northeasterly direction. On Wednesday, the high pressure slips through the country as we go into the weekend. Try to pull some warmer air up from the south, not quite as much as the GFS is showing, and generally keeping the high pressure slightly to our northwest. So this is a little bit cooler with the ECM, not as chilly as the GM, not as cold as that, but it is cooler compared to like the GFS. Moving up towards day 10, we're renewing the northeasterly as well. So high pressure blocking around Iceland and Greenland, pulling those winds in from the north and from the northeast. And that's how we're looking to get to day 10 in a northerly wind and looking quite cold there, I have to say, by day 10, which is Wednesday, the 28th of April. We're back into northern blocking, really, and wind is back into the north as well. So the delayed spring goes on with the ECM2. Can't show you the options on the table within the ECM ensembles because they haven't updated at the Icelandic Met Office yet. We'll show you those in our live stream. We can't show you the CFS weeklies, they haven't updated either. We'll show you those in the live stream, but we will show you, before we go, CFS monthlies. So this is how the CFS 700 millibar height anomaly is looking for May. Not too bad, actually. If you want a drier, warmer month, it's showing an area of above average height sitting over and to the east of the country, which should be drawing up the winds from the south. So that looks relatively settled, probably quite warm too. Temperature anomaly with CFS for May is above average, so quite a warmish month being signalled there. And precipitation anomaly, no signal, but with high pressure over and to the east coast, I would have thought a dry sort of month is quite likely. And we're done. If you enjoy this Sunday Roundup, then please can you smash the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You'll be able to see future weather content. If you do that, tell friends and family to subscribe as well. Thank you so much for doing this for GavsWeatherVids. And drop a comment and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. Rather short and Sunday Roundup. We are short of things to show you. I have to get on and record this. I can't wait. You know, I can't wait until everything is available, like I do in the week. I have to get the Sunday Roundup recorded and released by sort of midday time, or just after midday. So yeah, a bit short of things to show you now with Sunday Roundup, but we will include those in the live stream, of course. So we'll show you in the live stream CFS weeklies. We'll show you the options on 10 of the ECM ensembles. And we'll show you in the live stream, of course, the precipitation type forecast from Tometeo.com. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed Sunday Roundup. Thank you so much, everybody. And I shall see you live at 6 o'clock. And we'll also in the live stream, be showing you some long range as well with Beijing Climate Centre, probably including the CFS too, but also with Beijing Climate Centre. Have a look at what Beijing Climate Centre is forecasting for the summer, for the autumn, and possibly even for winter 21-22. More about that after 6 o'clock. Sunday Roundup for this week. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.